And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 146. Well, if you saw the last episode, you would know that we were doing sort of a collection here, a trio of Aerostars in Columbia, Missouri. So I guess I'm spoiling that if you haven't seen the last episode. Anywho, we sort of blathered on about the last one, and we're going to blather on about this one now. So, without further ado, here we have a Ford Aerostar 1996 four-wheel drive as is for parts. Listed for $700 in Columbia, Missouri. Again, so I'm reading the title as it appears here. I don't know why you would say 1996 Ford Aerostar four-wheel drive as is for parts, but you're trying to cram in, it's like your SEO, you're trying to cram in as much information as possible. So look at this beauty. Okay, we have a lot to say about this one. First of all, $700. So now that you have seen the last one, I will reference it. The last one was $850. So that was recently registered. Now this is the second one. We've gone down to $700 for this one. Presumably it's in worse shape. And why don't we go ahead and read the description. So, condition used fair. We drove this four-wheel drive Ford Aerostar to this location 12 years ago. The motor worked great and the transmission was great. The body, as you can see, is in bad condition. I really like this style of writing. There's something, very casual and welcoming about it, and yet very official sounding in terms of the way things are described. It's very, regimented in a sort of way, very descriptive and sort of a textbook, kind of quality to it, or textbook manner. The body, as you can see, is in bad condition. Broken windows, flat tires, deteriorated interior. They like that word deteriorated. I believe the last one had the brake system was irreparably deteriorated, which is funny because if something has deteriorated, usually that kind of connotes the fact that it's subpar, but not necessarily destroyed. I guess something could be deteriorated to the point of being destroyed, but usually those things, you would say the interior is destroyed, not the interior is deteriorated. That would to me would connote that it can be sort of revived. But anyway, irreparably deteriorated is kind of a very interesting phrase. Okay. So not only did they, comment that, as you can see, the body is in bad condition, but then even though they know we can see it, they go ahead and list the issues anyways, which is, generous. Broken windows, flat tires, deteriorated interior. I wish they would have said etc., but that's okay. Has about 120,000 miles. Car only for parts, ! I am posting 3 Ford Aerostars. If you buy all 3, you can get the lot at $2,000 and pickup only, so they're not going to ship it. Okay. Does the last one say pickup only? I might have missed that. I did miss that. Oh well, you're getting it now. So, just fantastic. I love the description. I love the language. I like that they say, it's not like, oh, it was parked 12 years ago. It was you get a narrative, you get a story. 12 years ago, we drove this, not just any Aerostar, but this four-wheel drive Aerostar, and not to somewhere, but to this very location that you see here. We drove this four-wheel drive Ford Aerostar to this location. This exact location 12 years ago. The motor worked great, and so now this one, which is $850, the motor runs, but we don't know how it runs, if it runs good or bad, and the transmission is good. Here, the motor and the transmission were both great, but that was 12 years ago. So obviously we can see the four-wheel drive badge here. I really like this hunter green, I call it. I know that's not the official color. It's one of my favorite Aerostar colors, and I've never even really come close to having one in this color. I always thought when I got an extended version it would be in this color, but turns out my first extended version was a red interior version that I bought out of Tennessee because I'm a crazy person, and I couldn't pass up the really amazing red interior, which, maybe one day we'll actually work on. But I have to say, even though I tend to favor single color Aerostars too. As much as I love sort of, I'm not going to call it a gimmick, but I like the style of a two-tone. There's something about the green, the dark green, that goes with both gold and silver bottom sections here. So the gold, I feel like, is kind of like, I feel like an extended all-wheel drive green over gold is sort of like the creme de la creme Aerostar. It's sort of like the quintessence of like late 90s style and colorway, and the gold, exuded this luxury, and the dark green exuded sort of like a ruggedness, and you had the four-wheel drive, and it was so, and I'm biased here because shout out to my good friend Lester. He and his family had 2 Aerostars consecutively, and the second one I believe was had to be 90s, and it was in that spec. It was the all-wheel drive extended green over gold. So maybe it's just in my head because that was the one I remember growing up. But I think even now, looking back on it with a little bit more objectivity, it still is sort of just a great color scheme, and just sort of like, I'm sure it was used in some of the brochures and marketing. That, and probably the red over gold, I know, was used in a lot of like marketing too later on, and 94 through 97, let's say, in the Aerostars run, 95 through 97 particularly. But the silver, quite nice as well. And I have to say, there's something about an air. I have like an absolute fetish for steel wheels. I love steel wheels, and I like them painted, body color matched. I like everything, but I also do like just like a plain black steel wheel. There's something so purposeful about it, and it really looks good on minivans in particular. I'm not sure why, and obviously it really looks good at Ford Aerostar. So I love these just black steel wheels. As cool as the alloys are, I feel like, especially when the vehicle gets a little bit jankier too, when it's getting on in like years and it's starting to take on some patina and stuff like that, some clear coat fade, then the black steel wheels just, again, they just exude just like pure purpose-built functionality, no frills, and I absolutely love that. I like how the mirror is bent completely backwards here. That's kind of funny. So, I mean, again, a very honest listing, which I appreciate. Still, again, see like these weird like stampings. Like the last one had this weird dent in here where it looks like it's like something was like stamped into it, and this one has like a sort of a similar, forklift or something was stamped in there. This looks like, I can't tell if it's been attempted to be repaired. Like mine has rust in the exact same spot there, and I put some duct tape over it, which held on for a good long time actually. This, I think, is like you have a combination of rot and bubbling paint. It's kind of in that stage where it's like still kind of bubbling as it's rusting out. Not the greatest, but not horrible actually. And again, the bumpers, which I'm always sort of like eyeballing, it's one of the first things I look at when I'm considering an Aerostar. They both look to be in good condition. Now, this bumper on the other side could be completely cracked off. You'd have to investigate that. Looks like this is being used for some storage in the 12 years since it was driven there and parked. And you have like, I guess, one of these rain guards that's sort of cracked off there. Some rusty, metal coloration patina going on there. The hood is up. But, conceivably, again, with this one, and this one, you could put these two together. I think if the engine and transmission are both good in this one, and it doesn't say anything about the braking system, and this has the four-wheel drive, you'd probably want this to be the one you saved, and then maybe you're taking alternators and stuff like that off this one for parts, maybe some of the windows. Again, it'd be quite the job, but if you're into preservation, or just having multiple Aerostars, which I'm very into that. And we actually have a second picture of this one. Okay, so. Wow, yeah, it's getting pretty bad down here. It's what's amazing is you can tell like sort of which way the sun was, because look at how shiny and unfaded this side of the vehicle is, and then look at how completely faded this side is, and this side is, and this, even the sort of like the rear half of this is still not bad, but this is like completely baked. So, and then the hood, so it's funny how you can kind of see what's been sort of more or less protected. And sure enough, I swear I didn't even do that on purpose, but this bumper is totally ripped off on this side, so you're not really getting into it for the bumper. Now, is this like an aftermarket louver system that's going on here. I don't want to give anything away, but on the next episode with the third Aerostar, of course I saved the best for last, and by best I of course mean jankiest. As much as I love like a pristine cream puff Aerostar, we did that black one not too long ago, that 86. Like, I also really like equally as much just like a total like, you know, janked out Aerostar that in my dream scenario I would get working mechanically perfect, and then I would change nothing about the aesthetics. So that would just, you know, just be this like almost Mad Max vehicle, but just like a, you know, not all gussied up or whatever, but just like a vehicle that you would, you know, I heard this story about Cal Ripken Jr. once, who's, and then I heard it about recently just about Bad Bunny too, but it's funny because the Ripken is the first time I heard it when he was in Baltimore as a young, you know, up and coming baseball player. He would, I think it was more for the fame, but maybe being, you know, vandalized too. He bought some like old jalopy, you know, crappy station wagon to drive around. It's like this famous athlete with, you know, money and all that. And then there's a similar story about Bad Bunny. I think he had like a Bugatti and he sold it for like a Toyota Corolla. And for him, I think it was both the fame aspect, but also the car getting like broken into a lot or whatever. So it's funny, you know, this is the real sort of sneaky allure of jankiness, is that, you know, it's very, I don't know if it's human nature or if it's, you know, been, you know, really like hammered into us, particularly as Americans and consumers, that we want these status symbols, we want these shiny cars, fast cars, whatever, but the value and the luxury afforded by sort of like anonymity is becoming increasingly valuable, you know? And to me, in Ford Aerostar, I mean, every time I see an Aerostar, I rubberneck like it's like the Pope or something, you know? But not everybody has that reaction. But anyways, if you had a mint condition Aerostar, you could probably still drive around anonymously, but maybe not. People might be like, oh, that looks like something in people's brains that recognizes that a car that old is not supposed to look that good. But if you're just driving around with something like this, but you know, like, you know, mechanically it's like prim and proper, I think that's like a great way to like move around through life, because like you're never gonna sort of, and you know, eventually the paparazzi will figure it out, and you'll have to get another janky Aerostar. and this is like my like sort of like all my like fantasies here coming out all at once. I have to run away from the paparazzi, and it's actually a practical maneuver for me to swap out Aerostars consistently. It's just an excuse to buy more Aerostars. Anyways, so this is the second of 3 Ford Aerostars. Again, no interior pics. This does have a factory roof rack on here. And God, you know, seeing this paint just all shiny, like, you know, to contradict myself again, there is something about when you do see an Aerostar that's so like minty about that. It really is a time machine. Like, it takes you back, and it's hard to appreciate like what the Aerostar looked like in its time until you see one that's like so well kept, because it's like, oh man, like this thing must have been just a showstopper when it first came out in 1986. And indeed, I think it was. So there you have it. That's the second of 2, or the second of 3 Aerostars that we're doing in this little the Columbia, Missouri collection here. And boy, it would be fun to buy the lot at $2,000. You're getting a lot for $2,000, but you're also not really getting any one singular thing. It's kind of a funny. That's like a Buddhist koan or something like that. You're getting a lot, but you're not getting one actual singular entity while you're getting a lot. If that makes sense. But you know, you're still getting a lot of something. Do you remember that movie, Stealing Harvard? It's like sort of an underrated movie with Tom Green and Jason Lee. He sells like wheelchairs to like, older folks or whatever. And there's this one scene where he goes, "Sir, I know it's a lot of money, but it's a lot of chair." There's another line about Tom Green talking about heating up a brick of cheese or a block of cheese. If you haven't seen that movie, underrated. Okay, anywho, just like the Ford Aerostar. There you go. Put a bow on it. Okay, this has been another episode of Year of the Aerostar here on Janky AF. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with another one coming very soon. And until then, Janky, Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.